Hello, everybody. Welcome to, I think this is our 6th free webinar in the Smart Building series for 2020. And today we are talking about the value of smartness. I'm joined by Sergio and George from Deloitte, and we're going to be discussing how the value of a building operating system goes well beyond the reduction of just CAPEX and OPEX. And Sergio has got a fantastic presentation for us. So let's first say hi. Okay. Hi, Sergio. Hi, George. No pressure, Sergio.
No pressure. Okay.
So this is how it's going to work today. We're going to have about 30 minutes of presentation, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So if you do have a question later on, or if you have a question as we go along, you will find a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you can type questions in. I'll be able to get them, and I'll put them to the guys after the presentation. And also, we are recording this. So tomorrow, you should receive an email with a link to the recording. But if you have any questions, or you don't get that email, you don't know where the link is, then feel free to email us at support@memory.com, and we will make sure you get that information. So without further ado, Sergio, please let's start talking about the value of smartness.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, a little bit around the world where you are. Jim just said it is a fantastic presentation. I don't know. It is a presentation. It's a quite straightforward one, very focused on data and results that are achieved and obtained throughout use cases, stories that we have with clients, and also with our own investigation a little bit around the world. And papers that we produce about smartness. First,
imagine an office where your personal well-being is accounted and cared for. A workplace that works for you, minimizing time-consuming activities and prioritizing accessibility. A building that recognizes your personal preferences, facilitates co-work, and provides you with your ideal work-life balance conditions. A sustainable, productive workplace that focuses on you while you are focused on business. Working with synergy.
So, as you can see, our thinking, our objective is very focused on you, like the video say, focus on you instead of focus on the building. Why do we do this? Well, normally companies say that people are their most relevant asset, and they are. But normally when buildings are built, when offices are made, they don't think that much about people, and essentially about people productivity. Real estate, it's today, it's very focused on the cost of the construction, the CAPEX, and of course of the savings that we are going to obtain if the building is well managed, the operation is well done, we have proactive maintenance, etc., etc. So focus on efficiency, effectiveness, okay? Saving electricity, power, you name it, okay? And that has a very strong business case. The return on investment for each euro or dollar or anywhere that you put on investment on smart CAPEX, so you have the cost of the building, then you invest on smart CAPEX, has a very strong return on investment. Normally the life of a building is 25 to 30 years, or office building, where we are going to focus this presentation on office buildings. Of course, we could, if you could talk about specialized buildings, sports buildings, hospitals, etc. It's a little bit different, it's similar anyway, but let's focus on office buildings. Afterwards, we can have other webinars around other topics. So the return on investment on OPEX is strong, okay, and it's proven, and we are going to show you some data about that. But the essential part is people. people. And people, why? Because if we impact productivity, if we impact the quality of life, then you are going to impact the retention, you are going to impact life-work balance, the retention of people, and you are going to reduce the churn of your workers. People would like to work there. Productivity boosts, and it's a question to have a building working for people instead of having people working in a building. That's the big difference. And of course, there's something that is around this. There's a capacity of the adaptation, of resilience of the building. The building needs to adapt to different tenants, to different stakeholders. There are insurance companies, and then afterwards you have a software company, etc. Different fit outs, different time frames where people work, different ways of working, of teaming up, etc. And also you need to have a building that can connect and correlate with the rest of the district and the city. So those are the focus, and almost all what we have been working is essentially on use cases that impact productivity of people, and they have a huge return on investment. This is just an example for you to make your eyeballs jump, and it's a very simple example. If you invest, for example, €1 of CAPEX for a new obtain a LEED Gold certification, the cost of normally of investing to have a LEED Gold certification, it's around 7% more than the regular building, let's say it, okay? And if you add a little 5% more costs for additional smart services that foster use cases that enable good quality of work for people, then you have an increase of investment of around 12%, and you have a huge return on investment on OPEX, of course, okay, but essentially on productivity, okay? And that's the focus of almost everything that we are going to present. So Deloitte's digital transformation focus on, like I've told you, use cases for people, all kind of stakeholders, okay? Of course, that I'm going to present you essentially data about domains, data about the savings of power, the savings, the increase of workspace, the increase of productivity, of well-being, etc. But when you cross and you create use cases that correlate several domains, for example, when you cross people flow with rooms availability, or with how is the flow in the canteen, can I go there or not, and what is, are my mates or my colleagues in that floor or not, can I go and meet them, etc. When you correlate all those use cases and the building serves people, then you increase a lot the value for money of the investment in smartness. Of course, normally, and the owner of the building wants to see very direct data. Will I save power? Will I, all those things, will I achieve a good valuable certifications that will increase my rental rates, etc. Yes, but it's not just that, okay? It's not just OPEX optimization. Use cases deliver also very well, like I told you before, on the reduction of OPEX, but the essential part is productivity, okay? Let me give you some data. For example, if you have a good smart lighting system and people and lighting that adapts to the daylight, and that adapts to the cycle of living and of the office and to the office time throughout the day, then you can boost productivity up to 23%. Okay, Another example, of course, I've talked to you about daylight. People prefer to have daylight instead of lighting. If you have good daylight, increase productivity up to 80%. If you add daylight with biophilia, the biophilia, that is the sense where you have a place with a greenery, a place with woods, a place with a touch with that people feels that is more or less inside a natural place. Where you have all that, you can have people 26% more aware at work. I'm giving data that we have collected from our own experience in our smart buildings, and also data that comes from studies that have been made a little bit all around the world. Okay, then, for example, this is an example from our own offices. This case is from the Edge in Amsterdam, but we have similar use cases in our clients or in other offices. To align the usage of the building, we normally the normal building is used around 60% of the space is used. When you align that, the knowledge of where and how people use the building, and you align that with the fit out of the building, you can increase the occupation up to 140%, and at the same time you upgrade the quality of using the building for the people. And if you if you measure the air quality, that's very relevant. All of us feel sometimes when we are in meetings inside the room, and the room has a lot of people. After 1 hour of meeting, our ears are red. We start to decrease our capacity to innovate and rationalize. That's because sometimes the meeting rooms do not have good air quality. That's just an example. So to have good ventilation, good air monitoring, quality of the air monitoring can increase up to 11% of productivity and reduces a lot the absenteeism. Okay, and that's for some companies that's very, very relevant. So some data just for people impact essentially focus on productivity. But of course that the tenants and the owners, they want also to see direct savings. And they are going also to have savings. These 33% energy savings are measures that we have from Deloitte's buildings. And I've already talked about Deloitte buildings twice. We have our own practice that every time that we are tenants of buildings, we don't own buildings, we're tenants. And every time that we choose a building, we have a very robust spreadsheet and checklist with conditions for the buildings that we go. And if the buildings do not cope with some of the items of that checklist, we are not going to be tenants of that building. It's not just a question of location, it's a question of experience. If it is a question of compliance with some certifications that nowadays we demand from the owners of the buildings. So these 33% energy savings are measured from 4 of our buildings, the most recent buildings that we have changed people. But normally the operational costs reduce, the average is around 33%. On this 23% in average. Energy savings, 32% our own measure. And from this 33%, 10% is due to improvements to analytics, to the measure, to the data that we receive from measuring people flow, usage of space, etc., etc. Very relevant nowadays that we are competing for talent, and the tenants, essentially service companies, nowadays they compete every day for talent. You can increase up to 80% the retention of people if you have a healthy and smart building. Once again, an office, a building that adapts to people needs, to the usage, to that people have. Okay, and together with that, through word of mouth, you have much more talent attraction also. Things that are also relevant, it's the reduction of downtime. The operation, the maintenance costs, normally they reduce around 9%. And if you have proactive maintenance, so if you have probes and sensoring of the essentially things that are managed in the building, then you have a huge increase on proactive maintenance, and you reduce the reactive maintenance. That is the maintenance that you have after a failure. You reduce the reactive maintenance in around 40%. Okay, let's go for the owner, the guys that are going to build the building. So as I told you before, when I was talking about energy, smart technology saves on average 22% in building OPEX, from tops more than 30% to less than 20, but normally the average is 22%. Okay, and this is due to from scratch. If you have a tool, a digital twin, building management system that collects the data every time that you put a new thing that needs to be managed, you put that information inside the digital twin, inside the building management system, etc. If you have that, then you can start to measure the usage, the way of work of that asset, and you collect and monitor all the data, you filter all the information, and namely you filter when you have a smart building, you are going to have also issues of cybersecurity. So it's very relevant to monitor all that information. So to do the proactive evaluation of any attack. And throughout the life, you are going to reduce the service management, the operations of the building. Okay, and of course, in this box you have also insurance costs. The insurance, if you can measure everything that you have, if you have a strong alarmistic around the things that you manage, then the insurance will be lower because you tackle all the challenges of the service management and of the operations of the building. Also, this is very relevant for the owner. The rents, you can have a premium on your rents. Okay, for example, just for a LEED certified building, you have an average 11% higher rent. Okay, that compared to non-certified buildings. 11% is huge. So if you save on the OPEX side, okay, if you save on the costs and you increase the top line, imagine the impact that can do to your margins. Okay, so it's very very relevant. And also you have, this is also very relevant, you have a 20% faster lease up for smart and sustainable buildings. Let me just give you a story. 1.5 week ago, I was in London visiting a very, maybe it is the biggest office building in Europe, is Bishopgate 22. And one of the tenants of the building has moved to that building, and they have the office just in front of the building, so on the other side of the street. Okay, and they still have 3 years of rent to pay in the other building where they are living, but they have moved to this new building because of all the smartness that the building can offer to them. Okay, they saw the value, the impact of the quality of the on their people, on their workers, and they've decided to change, even if they needed to pay 3 years more on the other building. Of course, they were negotiating, and we have visited their space. They were negotiating, but they decided to change because of the return that they will have on the impact of people. And another thing that one CEO that we have talked with also 1.5 years ago told us is that nowadays you can have you can build a building, okay, very nice building, a very an amazing location near the subway, everything. But the day that you put your building on the market, the building can be already outdated. You cannot, if you're not smart, if you're not sustainable, you will not be able to attract the best tenants, the ones that will pay for the best, the one that want to have the facility that can deliver to their people. That is the most, once again, the most valuable asset that they have. Okay, so quicker sales to better tenants. Okay, that's very relevant. We have already talked about higher rental rates, but also this is very relevant, higher occupancy rates. And I just gave you an example: attract professional tenants and faster than other similar buildings, even on the other side of the street. So as I've told you, this is a very straightforward presentation, very based on data. And I'll show you here some data, some numbers. But those numbers are different for every building, every office, every company in the same building, every tenant in the same building that we have been working with. Why? Because the usage of the building is different, the use cases they implement are different, and every building is different from another. So, of course, that these numbers are some of the use cases that we have collected. But as you can see, they are very robust. They are so robust, some of them, that we have recently worked with a client around the 20 use cases for that client. They are building a very iconic new office, okay, that will be ready in 1.5 years. But they want that office to be the smartest office in the city where they, or in the country where they are building that office. And the value delivered by the use cases, essentially the use cases that are cross-domain, once again, okay, the use cases that cross several of the services provided by the building are so strong that instead to put in the report that you have made, the return of that investment they will do, we put grades from AAA to B- on the use cases that were chosen by the client, because almost all the use cases deliver a very strong value, but instead of what people normally think, is not on the OPEX side that the value is higher. The value is higher when we look to people, when you look to productivity, when you look to the increase of capacity, when you look to talent attraction, employee retention, etc., 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 health and disease prevention, etc., etc. That's the most relevant thing. And if you have a building where people is the users, people that lives there, that works there, is satisfied, well, then the tenants will be satisfied, then the owner will be satisfied. Everybody will have a strong value for the smartness of that building. And that's it. That's a short presentation, very data-based. A lot of data was presented here. All that data is consolidated on top of studies and on top of use cases that we have built to our clients. We are going to be at Smart City Expo World Congress next month, and of course, one of the things that we are going to present there, it's also smart buildings. I work in the Smart City, Smart Nations Global Center of Competence, and also we work for 3.5 years, 4 years to in smart cities, smart buildings, with some of the most challenging and demanding clients in the world. And of course, when you work with cities and nations, the purpose of the projects, it's different. You are working essentially with public sector. When you work with the districts and buildings, you are working with private sector, and private sector wants to evaluate directly the return on investment and wants to sell fast, with higher values. And on the other side, the tenants, they want to have the capacity to provide the best place to work to their workers. Thank you for your time. Ready to receive your questions. I think, yes, I've made this in 37 minutes, 3 minutes before the scheduled time. Thank you. Jim.
Thank you, Sergio. That was fantastic. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And we can go through it now. So guys, we've got plenty of time for conversation. If you have questions for Sergio, and George is on the line as well. So yeah, any questions on that content, or specifically, you know, about what their experience in working in smart city or smart building projects, then now is your time to ask. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, it's really great to see putting some numbers, you know, to some of these things. And the numbers you showed, I mean, they're coming from real world examples of these projects that you've worked on.
Yes, some of them are our own experience. Okay, when we have our real estate practice as normally measures the before and the after, the transformation. And when they change from one building to the other, we measure that. Okay, and we have very interesting cases in London, the new office in London. I can, for example, it's interesting for me to talk about that case, because you have two buildings connected by a bridge, okay, that connects both buildings. The oldest building, it's a traditional, a good one, a very good one, but a traditional office building, okay. And the new one, it's a very organic office building, where all the furniture, it's displayed in a way that fosters people interaction. It's very easy to interact with somebody and to go to a corner and to have a brainstorm. It's very easy to schedule a room. And if you go to one building and to another, you sense a very different energy, completely different energy between the buildings. This is just one example, and but this example is driving that in most of our new buildings, essentially in the consulting area, not on the audit area and tax, etc., but essentially in the consulting area, where you need to interact more and to have brainstorms, etc., etc. We are, for example, we measure the usage of the furniture. We have sensoring, and if a certain furniture is not used, or a bench or something like that, for example, we discovered that some benches, girls don't like to use those benches, so they won't go there. They don't like to meet there. So this kind of data, it's paramount, because if you discover this, you can substitute for example, in this case, the furnishing or the meeting areas, etc. And you can take advantage of everything, every area of the building. So in some of our new buildings, the regular place to work, so you have a desk with a screen and you put your computer there and you work there, are getting shorter and shorter, and more you have meeting space. And because this return to office shows one thing, that why we need to ask ourselves, and everybody is doing the same question: why do people want to get back to office? Well, some of them have suffered from isolation. They have problems of productivity at home with kids, and they don't have the good bandwidth, etc., etc. But that is a reaction to poor quality at home or something like that. But essentially, people want to go to work to team up, to brainstorm, to meet with their colleagues, with their friends, and to get more productivity. So when they go to the office, that essentially it's not to be in a desk and work alone. It's to have lunch with the colleagues, to have brainstorms, meetings, etc., etc. So we are that, and that's also smartness. Smartness to measure also the people flow, measure the user experience, etc. Okay, and without data, we cannot discover this. So data is what we measure. When we say that we increase productivity, that we increase the occupancy of the space, that's why we are measuring. So once again, and going back, all this data came from several studies that we have, Morgan Stanley, GLEL, CBRE, World Green Building Council, etc., etc., etc. But essentially, use cases that we have implemented with our clients, okay, and our own eat your own dog food, so our own use cases, okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some questions coming, but I wanted to ask you one before that, and maybe George has an opinion on this as well. I think what you've shown here, I mean, it's a pretty compelling case for investment, right, and return on investment. But we know in this business there are still, there are definitely barriers to adoption. So I'm saying, what do you think some of those limiting factors are at the moment? Like, why are people still and companies not investing in, workplace technology adoption?
Yeah. Essentially, there are several things, but the investment is higher, as I told you. Okay, 12%, 50% more. So it depends of the use cases and of the smartness that you put. Okay, but once again, let me. This was a phrase. I'm not going to tell you, you guys who say this, but it was a very powerful testimony that we receive. If you build a building and you invest billions to building a very well located building, okay, that cost you 5 years to build with taxes and licensing and demolitions and taking out the debris and architects, you name it. And the day you open and you're ready for business, the office is already outdated, obsolete. That will cost a lot to the owner, to the real estate developer. And on the other side, you have the C-level of the company. C-level of the company, they have a lifespan of, they have work always the same way, like me, okay? I have gray hair. They have always work in a way that is not this way, how we need to adapt the buildings. So they look more for iconic locations, iconic buildings that are a statement of the strength and the health of the company. And they mock a little bit with the offices like Google offices and Facebook office, etc., etc., because they don't understand the need of that kind of brainstorming, of that kind of wellness, of health in the building, etc., etc. So it's both. One, the builder, the real estate developer, they don't want to invest that much because they do not understand, they don't have the data of the return that they are going to have to attract valuable tenants, to have quicker sales, higher rentals, etc. They are building buildings for 10, 20 years. Okay, so that's and on the other side is the C-level that does not have this so we need to explain them and show them in the company that I've just talked with about use cases. We have presented the use cases, and the board level of that company, the C-level that was working directly with us was completely convinced. But then he told us, guys, I'm completely convinced, but I need to take this to the rest of the board and to the shareholders because I will be killed if I just go there and explain that we need to invest in this and that and that and that. So I need you to show, and that's it. As this is something that we need to win, C-level by C-level, a real estate developer by real estate developer, and one day the story will be clear, and I think everybody will understand that they can build something that is marvelous, but they were not going to rent because the best tenants, they don't want to go there.
James, I can add a bit on what Sergio was telling to our notes here. First of all, it's like Sergio was telling, we are in a shifting period in real estate, basically. And for example, there's the 7-3 rule, which means that before COVID, we had spaces like in an office, 70% of the spaces were for regular sitting workplaces.
Yeah.
Now 70% of the places are allocated for meeting rooms. This is a large change. And we are still, and I don't want to seem a bit unpleasant, but we are still educating some of the community, the real estate community, for this new trend. So it's baby steps at first, you know. This is the first thing. Second thing, Sergio was showing the premiums for investing in smart buildings, and they were for 11.5%, 11.1%, if I'm not wrong. Sergio was also saying that the investment in smart is still over 10%. So
it's around 17.
So it's still tough to sell. It's still a difficult pitch. I firmly believe that because it's a new market, let's say like this, there will be more suppliers in the future. So it's my belief that investment will also go lower because there will be more suppliers in the future in the market, thus making it an easier investment. Okay, so that's the second point. Thirdly, as Sergio was telling, short-term return, long-term return. It's quite difficult for the administration of an office or of a client to see the investment in user experience and seeing that they will have a return on investment. Maybe it's harder to sell or to pitch an investment on user experience for now because there's still lack of data or as much data as the other, as in energy, for example. Yeah. So that's the third part. Still, there's still a lot of work to do in terms of collecting data and showing use cases, business cases to the clients. And we are working on that, which is quite interesting. It's an adventure that we are going through.
Yeah. One thing that is some of the building developers that we have been talking with, they say, yes, I'm going to have a DMS, a building management system, building automation system. So everything is tackled. I'm going to manage the AVAC, I'm going to manage the lifts, access management, everything is, but normally, as we explain to them, we are talking about a reptilian brain, let's say it. Reptilian brain reacts. You program and it reacts, and the things that the reptilian brain does are very standard. Then the reptilian brain does not learn with the usage of the building. It does not understand that the weather on the outside is different, does not understand that nowadays with the hybrid work, people do not go to work or go less to work Mondays and Fridays. So they are always delivering the same service throughout the day and throughout the week, etc., and throughout the year, independently of the weather, etc., etc. Okay, if there are traffic problems, strikes, it's always the same. We need to have, and in my presentation, on the other was always a building operation system. Building operating system is different from a building automation system because first it integrates domains. So it integrates quality of air with spatial location, with people flow. So that's a different breed of brain, a brain that learns with throughout time, throughout the day, okay, and deliver use cases once again that are cross domain. And this kind of systems nowadays are not normal at all. We have very few cases of this kind of solutions, and that's what we have been proposing. So we are not on the building management system area. There are companies there that are there for more than 20 years, great companies that deliver great work, quality of service, etc., etc. Focus on the OPEX side, great. We are on the building operation system, okay? And that experience we brought from the managing of cities and nations, okay? We brought that to districts and now to buildings. And that, once again, our focus is not on the OPEX and the operation side. That's relevant, that's paramount, but our effort, it's on productivity, on people, on talent, attraction and retention, etc., etc., etc. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
And it's a new. So you are coping with people that say, okay, people are our biggest asset, etc., etc., but they are not used to see the so what. So people is not our biggest asset. So what? So what first? A building is a productivity tool, like a PC, like a computer. Building is a productivity tool. It's not a statement, okay? It's not. You can have a huge iconic building, but people they hate that building. They don't like to work there. So the C-level, it's very proud of having a very iconic building, but they cannot retain talent. And if they cannot retain talent, the company will go down. That's our pitch, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to some questions then from listeners. Easy one for me anyway. Will we receive a link with a recording for the webinar? Yes. So we're recording this. I will put this up on YouTube sometime this evening. And so if you go to YouTube, you search for the Smart Building series, you can subscribe there. But you will also, everyone who's attended will also get the link in an email sometime tomorrow as well. So Sergio, a couple of questions for you. Has a building's smartness replaced location as the value measurement of choice?
Well, the real estate developers normally say, well, there are three things important in a building: location, location, and location. Okay. Nowadays, we think that it's location, data, and experience. Okay. So, and you can roll back to our presentation to see why data is important and why experience is important. Okay. So, like Jos was saying, this is a new paradigm. Okay, location is important, is still important. Okay, but it's a new paradigm. Okay, so for us, it's location, data, and experience.
Okay. And there's a second part to the question. What about the building smartness contributions to increasing the actual building's value when it comes to valuation and resale?
Well, it's easy. If you have the best tenants and the best rents and the investment, for example, you have invested in the smartness of the building, as you can, and I've explained, normally you have the return on investment on the OPEX side. So if you invest on smartness, just on the OPEX side, you have the return on investment in 5 years, more or less, okay? So if you want to sell your building, just looking to the OPEX side, you're on the safe side, okay? And you are going to have a building that has a huge value, that can sense, that has the capacity to collect the data, all that. On the other side, that building will have the best tenants, the best rents, and the tenants they don't, you know how much it's like the churn of a worker. The churn of a tenant, it costs a lot. Normally, it costs 1 year of rent to a building owner. So if you have the best tenants, they want to stay there because the building is great and delivers. So if you sell the building, you sell the building with the tenants. So you have a very, very strong business case. It's not brick and mortar. It's brick and mortar and data and the tenants that are inside. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's the value, it's completely different if you just have brick and mortar.
Mm. I had a question, because actually you mentioned during your presentation that you guys are tenants exclusively.
Yep.
So like, from your experience, and you mentioned you have a checklist, right? So, I mean, do you have, from your experience, do you have advice to other tenants, like who are, you know, they want to go on a technology journey? Like what would be some of the most important points?
We advise the tenants. We have an area of human capital that has all the change, transformation, and advisory about real estate. That's a classic real estate area and human capital area that we have. Okay, those teams work with us because we are on the smartness of the building. Okay, so the user experience needs to be connected with the smartness. We cannot provide some use cases, some user experience if you don't have the capacity to deliver those use cases. So they are connected. 5 years ago, essentially our advice were around, the change transformation, how to improve the usage of the building, etc., etc. Okay. Nowadays, in the last assignments that we are investing a lot also in advising our clients on the smartness of the building. Okay, and that delivers a lot more value than just the classic approach. Okay, it's normal. If you provide more information, more data to the building owner or to the tenant, and we are tenants. Once again, we are in 153 countries around the world, and we don't have buildings, so we use and we are tenants. As tenants, we want that our people stays in the best place possible with the best conditions, because talent, Deloitte is talent. Okay, Deloitte is people, Deloitte is talent. Without talent and without productivity of that talent, we cannot deliver to our clients.
Oh, so what are the kind of things that are on that checklist then, if you're looking to take? It's a long one, I guess. Yeah,
it's a very long one. And in the list, for example, let me give you some of the most recent things that are very new. 1-2 years ago, we start to look also to the materials for the embodied carbon, things like that. Okay, so because we have ESG compliance. We have a compromise for carbon neutrality, a global. We pay our carbon neutrality. So it's not just smartness. It's not just quality of work. It's nowadays we look to the whole life cycle of the building, from the moment it is built until it is debris. Okay, so and this is brand new. It has 2 years, let's say, like that, no more than that. Okay, and we support our clients also in this area if they want. Okay, if they want.
Yeah, 'cause, I was going to mention some of those things because, you know, as I said before, I think what you've shown is some kind of solid data for return on investment, but this doesn't even touch on sustainability and the ESG agenda, you know, which
no, it touches.
in itself can drive technology.
We can have a pitch around that. Okay, but the question, and we have discussed that people, we can have a round pitch that this is very beautiful, blah 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 blah. But I think people wants to see data. Okay, show me the numbers. Show me our clients. Okay, that's nice. ESG compliant. Okay, show me the data. Okay, and we can show that smartness delivers ESG compliance. So essentially, I show you you can lower 33%. This is our own experience, but normally energy savings around 23%. Our own experience 33. Okay, so it delivers quality health. So if you have certifications, LEED certifications, BREEAM certifications, etc., the quality of the air, the biophilia, the etc., the lighting, all that impacts the certifications. All that allows that the owner and afterwards the tenants also achieve ESG compliance. The owners achieve good, valuable certifications, and valuable certifications deliver value. Okay, LEED, BREEAM, etc. They deliver value. I've shown you that the premium for a LEED building is around 11.1%. Okay, the normal premium. Okay, a little bit around the world. Okay, so if you add more things, the tenants are willing to pay more. Okay, so yes, the ESG agenda is there, but in this presentation we cannot present. We have half an hour. We cannot talk about everything.
Oh, of course.
We have a different deck, a very about future of work. Okay, if you want, I can ask for one of my colleagues to come here and to talk to you about the future of work. Okay, it's very interesting, but here we want to explain everybody, people, tenants, and owners. There's a huge and strong use case around being smart, investing in smartness. Okay, so let's cut all the conversation. And if you're a company, like I told you, one thing is to work with cities and nations. Another thing is to talk with companies and real estate owners, builders, etc., etc. It's completely different. Show me the money. Okay, the money is here. Okay, and every company, when I talk about retention, talent attraction, every company knows how much it costs to attract talent, to retain talent, etc.
Right.
Okay, every company knows, every services company, but industrial companies also, they know how much it will impact the company if the productivity increases 11, 20%. That's huge. The salaries are the biggest cost of almost every companies, except the biggest industrial ones. Okay, but service companies' salaries are the biggest cost by far. Okay, so if you impact productivity, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here from the audience. With the world employing hybrid working environments and remote work, do you think the use case numbers you shared will change?
Well, one of the things that the companies, so the tenants and the owners need to think why people need to go to the office. Okay, as I told you, there are people that the isolation during the pandemic has taken a toll on some people. Some of them want to get back to office. Some of them do not have the conditions to work at home. Okay, they don't have a good office at home. They have, it's difficult. Okay, and also they want to connect with the colleagues, with friends, etc., etc. That's it. But that's not the biggest chunk of people. The other ones, they are going back because we are going to identify the moments that matter. Okay, the moments where the collaborators and friends will be there, meetings that are more productive if people are there. Once again, I'm going to talk about the new office of Deloitte in London. The two offices connected by a bridge. Okay, one with the energy that is amazing, everybody talking, but with spaces where people can go there, round spaces, square spaces where people can go there and can talk without disturb the others that are working a little bit around, where you can schedule a room fast, or you can find a room very fast. Like Charles was saying, almost all the building is built to connect and to interact. If you have this kind of office, yes, people will like to go there. They will like to brainstorm, to work with the colleagues, to learn with the colleagues, to have mentoring from the senior teams, from the managers, from the directors, etc. They would like to go there. I think hybrid is here to stay, but nevertheless, and on the other side, if you have data, you can distribute the teams throughout the week. Okay, you can have you can balance the teams throughout the week. But normally, people from some of the works, people do not need to be all the week at the office. In some works, they need to be there, but it's normal. But for they do not need to be. When they need to be, when they need to team up. That's it.
Great.
So it's and you can only understand when and why to adapt your building if you have the data, or you can guess, okay, and for learn, or you can benchmark, okay. We do that for some of our clients. They don't have the smartness and the data. We benchmark and we explain them. That's one way, okay. Or you can learn, and once again, you can have a building that learns and adapts. Okay.
Time for one final question, which is an interesting one. Do you predict that the big tech companies, e.g. Google, Microsoft, Meta, will eventually move into the building operating system sector?
Yes, why not? Why not? They have the technology to do that. It depends. If they find there's a business there, they will. Okay, but we are discussing that the big tech will go to our homes and will be in our homes, and yes, they are somewhere somehow, but it's a complicated big tech. This kind of companies that we have talked here, normally they produce solutions there. There are more or less one size fits all. And this is a kind of bespoke solution. In my presentation, I've talked about that every client. So if you go to a building like Bishop Way 22 in London, we have 70,000 people working there. So tens of companies that have their office there. Every company is different. So with the same services that we have there, the building is the same, but with the same services, you need to provide very different use cases or an insurance company, or you have 6 buildings of 6 stores for Apple development labs in Europe, etc. So every company, it's different, and the building needs to adapt to the fit out, and the building needs to adapt to the way of work of those companies, etc., etc. So even in just one building, we will need to adapt to a lot of different situations. If you go to just one firm has different areas, legal people, tax people, you name it, different areas, and they all work in a different way. So even in the same company, you have different areas that work in different ways, have different schedules, different ways of work, etc., different bosses. So that's why I'm saying that you need to have a bespoke solution. Of course, it cannot be, you need to have platforms to do that, but and big tech are not ready to currently to that kind of solutions. They can have the technology, but they will need integrators. Those integrators will integrate the domains, the access management, security, AVATs, all those domains. Those integrators will build the use cases, and those integrators will provide, probably, if the client wants, the service management, the operations of the building. So I don't think they can provide the technology, they cannot provide the integration.
No,
okay?
Great point. Thank you so much for excellent presentation and discussion. And yeah, both Sergio and George, thanks for your contribution. So guys, of course, thanks for listening. And as I said before, we've recorded this session, so look out on our YouTube channel for the recording.
And
so just say goodbye.
If you go to the Smart City World Congress, we'll see you there, and we can talk a lot more. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.